You're listening to the Small and Supercharged podcast with Ria Freeman, episode 239. On today's Small and Supercharged podcast, we are joined by Georgia Kavulok, who you'll know better as Lilpetchannel. As I was just saying to Georgia, actually, I usually refer to her as Georgia, Georgia Lilpetchannel. But Georgia, it's lovely to have you here today. Thank you for joining us.
No, thank you for having me. I'm really excited.
Actually, we're just recording this after the first National Equine Show, which, side note, if you didn't go this year, go next year. But Georgia was on the influencer panel I had with Esme and Di and Lydia, and it was blooming brilliant. It was such a fun panel. I really enjoyed that and got to learn loads more about your journey there too. So it's great to be able to quiz you on here and have everybody learn all about you.
Yeah, super excited. I loved the National Equine Show. It was really great. So thank you so much for the invite, especially being up there, with the best in the business, some really inspirational women. And we're even recording this on International Women's Day. So
I would say it's been planned like that. It hasn't, but we can pretend. Let's pretend.
Absolutely. Fake it till you make it.
No, it was a really, really good discussion, and it was a great audience. And I did feel bad because we had so many questions, and so we only had 45 minutes. I genuinely think we could have taken questions for hours and hours and hours.
Oh, definitely.
But you've got to fit with what you've got, and that's what we had. So Georgia, talk to us about what you do now and ideally how you started along this journey as well.
Okay, so I don't think my story is that exciting, but so for anyone who doesn't know me, I am best known as an equestrian influencer. I've been in the game for a very long time now. I started this actually when I was like 12, so over 10 years ago. And I've been a horse rider all of my life. And when I was younger, I was YouTube obsessed. So I started out as a YouTuber, uploading little videos of all my little pets, hence Lilpetchannel. Someone had taken Little Pet Channel, so I was like, right, that's it, I'll shorten it, we'll go with Lil. So Lilpetchannel became a thing and has confused people ever since. But it's basically its own brand now, so I can't change the name as much as I would like to some days. So yeah, I started uploading to YouTube. I kind of did it on and off. Really didn't think anything of it. And when I started, there was no such thing as an influencer. I am that old. No one knew what it was going to become. So I kind of left my channel, went to university. I got quite ill during my A-levels, so I couldn't go and do vet school. So I was like, oh, I don't really know what I'm doing. I went and did animal science instead. And started riding for some show jumpers while I was there. And I thought, oh, this is pretty cool, riding for some decent level show jumpers. And I started like filming myself doing that. And that's how my channel became equestrian. So I'd always had horses, but I never really included them. And when I started including them, it just took off. It just I just found my people, and I just kept getting more and more followers. I thought, oh, well, I can actually do something with this. Then I came home, started filming with my own horses and following their journeys. I did a master's in equine, thinking that, oh, I'll find a job in that at the end. And then, to be honest, by the end of my master's, I came out of it and I had like over 100,000 followers between my socials. I thought, I'm going to make this into something. I can actually do this. And by then I sort of found, your Instagram, and TikTok was just starting. And then it was lockdown really that changed everything for me. I started uploading daily YouTube videos, which is still the hardest thing I have ever done. Like literally I was getting up at 5 a.m. and finishing editing at like 12. It was ridiculous.
That's a commitment, because it's not just the videoing. The videoing is the bit that doesn't take that much time in the grand scheme of things, isn't it?
Yeah, it's all the editing. That's what gets me. And like literally when I started this, it used to take me 2 days to edit a video, and now I'm quite quick with it. But yeah, lockdown was so much fun, but I completely burnt myself out. And then I kind of decided I love my socials, and I did that, but I also then set up because I've become a brand ambassador for so many brands, and I was helping them with their socials. And I thought there was a big gap in the market. There were all these agencies, but who didn't really understand the equestrian, and we're so traditionalist, we're so like niche, that I thought, oh, I could be a social media manager for a lot of brands. So a couple of years ago, I set up as a freelance social media manager as well as everything else that I do. But yeah, that's basically the story of how I got here. And I absolutely love it. And social media is my absolute passion, along with horse riding, obviously. And I'm so lucky. I think if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life.
Although you do work very hard. I mean, you're here, there and everywhere. And I do understand a little bit of the kind of video editing. Any video I do, I don't edit it. Basically my husband's good at editing stuff. So the things I do for my kind of courses, he does. But the editing is hard, even if it's just basic, because you want it to be perfect, and it takes a lot of time and a lot of patience. And I don't possess those qualities. But yeah. And then of course you've got TikTok, which is a whole different animal. It's not the long form, it's the short form, snappy, completely different again. Because what kind of followings have you got on all the different places?
As in like different types of my audience?
Because on YouTube, you've got your special button, haven't you?
Yeah. So on YouTube, I have got my plaque, which I'm very excited about. So I'm at like 115k now, but you get your plaque when you're at 100k. And I remember that coming through the door and being like, oh my goodness, this is incredible. Like the people I looked up to who were like my inspirations were the people with the plaques, and I was like, oh my god, I've got one. So yeah, that's my biggest platform, is my YouTube still to this day, and I think obviously that's when I started at. And then I think TikTok's next. Yeah, TikTok's definitely next. So that I'm a video gal. I love my videos. So I'm on 84,000 on TikTok, and then Instagram we're just over 30k. But I've only really got into Instagram in the last couple of years because obviously Reels took off, and I was like, yes, this is for me. And yeah, I think it is true. Like the hardest part is all of the editing. And that's why I always liked video, because I'm completely self-taught with the camera, with editing, with Photoshop and Lightroom and everything else that everyone has. And it is a massive like thing to get into, and all the equipment you need. And yeah, it's taken me years to build up to this. But I really enjoy the editing side of it, even though I've never done anything with it like, I never went and did marketing or anything like that, but I just love, like, I'm a bit of a nerd. I'll go on YouTube and like watch videos on how to edit certain things. So yeah, that helped a lot. But some days I'd love to turn around and be like, someone else just do it for me, but it'd never be the way I'd want it.
No. And you have got that style, you've built that following based on how you do all the processes. It's not just you in front of the camera, it's how you then put that story together and every aspect of it. So it would be quite a change, I imagine. I mean, I know people could copy in terms of you could go through the process, but it's very individual, isn't it? Everyone's editing style is very individual. It's like a written piece of work. You can write about the same thing, but it is different.
Oh yeah, completely. And I think it's the thing that makes it different is my videos are quite personal. So I am very much a vlogger. I like a camera in my face. I like to chat to my audience like they're there. And that's how I connect with a lot of them, I think. And I think that's why my audience is slightly different to some other YouTubers that you see. Because I like to have those conversations. And it's like my horse recently bought a new horse, and she had to have surgery, and we nearly lost her to colic after it. And there's a video of me sat there crying, discussing it. But you've got to be open and honest and show the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I think that's how I've grown this amazing audience of such supportive people. Because doing what I do, you get like, and as well, having like over the 200,000 followers, you're opening yourself up for criticism and bad comments and things like that. And I'm so lucky that I really don't get any hate on my channel or on my socials. And I think a lot of that is because I do have that sort of like personal touch.
Yeah. Do you think that's to it as well? Because we do know that a lot of people in your position with substantial followings, even people without substantial followings, do get a whole world of hate that they did not sign up to or deserve or anything else. Do you know why you avoid it more? Do you think it's because you focus in on you rather than other issues in like the best possible way? Because sometimes you have no idea why someone's got the kind of comments they have, and other times when you're kind of going after more controversial subjects, you can see it happening. It's not an excuse for it, and it's still wrong, What's your take on it?
I honestly think that I don't get a lot of hate because I don't really compete at the moment. And I think, the equestrian industry, we are known for being a bit bitchy and just, it's not always the most supportive industry. You know, away from social media, you add social media and you're behind a screen, it just gets worse. So
Mm.
I do genuinely think, because I'm not competing at the minute, obviously I've just bought my new event horse and I plan to, but because I'm not doing anything to a high level, people aren't sort of, don't feel the need to criticize me when I'm jumping around 70 centimeters, because they're like, well, that's what I think if I was jumping a meter 20, people would have something more to say about it. And I have sort of touched on almost controversial topics. I had a go at being a jockey, and that got a little bit of hate because of people who were against the racing industry. But again, I explained how all the horses were trained, and I think you do open yourself up to it. And the best advice I've always given people is, one strike and you're out. If anyone does leave anything nasty on my videos or feels the need to DM me something, that isn't positive, I will just ignore them and remove them from my socials, because I don't need to see it. They don't need to share it. Everyone has their opinion. You're more than welcome to have it, but I don't always need to hear it. And I think, you've got to protect your own mental health in this game. But yeah, I genuinely think showing people that you're a real human helps.
Yeah.
And I'm I'm a big believer in, like, my horses aren't always pristine. They're not always, in the most expensive gear, or I mean, Smokey's always got a stable stain on him. I can't, he's grey. So
Mhm.
I think being a bit more natural and a bit just like your everyday person really helps, because people aren't dragging you down for the fact that you're perfect. And I'm
Yeah.
definitely not that.
No, it's a funny one though. Just the sort of thought of getting hate and negativity put you off doing things or sharing specific things on your social, or does it not really bother you?
um it's definitely calculated, and I have had opportunities before that I've thought about. I'm open to discussion. I like a good discussion and a good debate. So I don't I'm not really too bothered by it, because I can take criticism well. And I think, having done this, for over 10 years, there has been a lot of criticism over the years. So you do get used to it. And I am more than happy to listen to someone's opinion and learn from it. I'm not really like, stuck in my ways with that. So I think, but it does put me off the idea of maybe tackling a subject that's really raw or really controversial. I would probably avoid, unless I knew all the facts. So I'm one of these people, I like to go to experts for things. I will not give my opinion on something if I don't feel I know it well enough. So that is something that I think a lot of people put their opinion out there, but maybe they aren't experts in that field. And so that opens you up to a lot of criticism, because obviously not everyone knows everything. But the stuff that I will talk about that is maybe a little bit controversial is the stuff I know. So I did my dissertation on equine gastric ulcer syndrome and on supplements. So one of the big things for me is only feeding things that work, and I'm really, really passionate that there are some supplements out there that have all this stuff in it that isn't going to do anything. Or I'm really passionate about the way horses are treated, in line with equine gastric ulcer syndrome, because I've seen the research, I've done the research. So that I will happily have a debate with someone over, because I know I'm in a position where I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So thinking about kind of more positive things, so you started growing your account about 10 years ago. At what point did you think, hang on a minute, this isn't normal? Because lots of people have got social media accounts, billions of people, but there's not that many that have got accounts which go into the hundreds of thousands followers, 80,000 followers. So what point did you think, ooh, this is taking a turn?
I think it was when I was 18 and I was heading to university, and I'd gone to Hoy's that year, and so many people had recognised me, and it was the first time people had really stopped me and asked for a photo or said they liked my videos, and just like the fact that people would then recognize me, I was like, oh wow. But then obviously that was in an equestrian setting. And then I went to uni, and literally on my first day, someone was like, oh, don't you do YouTube? And I was like, oh no, like people can't know. So I kept it top secret at university. No one really knew about it, because I wasn't bothered about getting hate online, but if someone said it to me in person, I'd probably have cried. So yeah, I think it was when I went to uni, and I was determined to continue doing it, but I kind of did it in secret. So only like my close friends knew, and they'd come down and help me film with the horses. Because obviously like I needed someone on the ground. So yeah, literally like 3 people knew when I was 18. And then obviously just my parents, and that was it in like the people around me. And I think as well back then, because I don't know how many followers I was at, but I didn't feel like it was enough to be like, oh, this is what I do, I'm a YouTuber. um so I was in that sort of in between where I was getting recognized and people appreciated what I did, but I didn't feel um like confident enough to be like, oh yeah, I'm an influencer.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So obviously you went to university. What point did you start working with brands as a brand ambassador? Because you've got quite a few really lovely brands that you've worked with, and that you've worked with for quite a long time as well in some cases.
Yeah, I think as a BA, I started with Red Gorilla. They were the first one, and I've been with them, probably about 4 years now, I want to say, maybe 5. Um, they were the first brand that sort of reached out to me, and I'd done on and off things. So I'd done a few sponsored posts, and I tagged people in things. But they were the first brand that were like, we want to support you, we want to be your people. And I was so honored by that, because basically they hadn't really worked with any other influencers, and quite a lot of it, it's word of mouth and stuff like that. So I was like, oh, this would be amazing. I've always used their products for years. So they were the first ones, and from there it kind of just snowballed. And I really like working with brands as a brand ambassador over sort of your one-off sponsorships or anything like that, because I want to promote what I use every single day, and all of the brands that I work with are products that I would buy whether they like gave it me or not. And I think that's something that you don't see as much these days. It's become a thing to be an influencer. And I think a lot of people see brand ambassadorships as, oh, you get free product. But actually, the reason that I'm with Red Gorilla, as I say, I would buy their products anyway, is because they have given me so many incredible opportunities. They've invited me to events, they support me in everything I do. And that's the big thing for me. And I've got so many other amazing brands that I work with, like Premier Performance, who are my supplements, Silvermore Haylage, Albion Saddles, and then getting into a bit of the fashion world as well with Fairfax and Favour. So yeah, you then get approached by other brands, and it's so, like, honestly, sometimes when you get an email, you open it, you think, oh my goodness, you want to work with me. But yeah, I think, yeah, it was about the 4 year mark, like, as I say, about 4 years ago. And I just absolutely love it, because you build these incredible relationships.
Now, as you know, because I talk about it a lot, brand ambassadorships and influencers are something that I get asked a lot about with the brands that I work with, and also with people who are looking to build their followings. How difficult is it to turn away an opportunity that comes into your inbox if it doesn't fit with you? Because I always say to people, you've got to believe in it because your brand's stuck with that. But it's not as, I mean, it is easy, but it's got the kind of flattery aspect. You don't upset people. How do you manage that?
I think it is really hard. And I think when you're trying to grow as well, so now I'm really selective. I am really selective, but possibly in the past I haven't been as selective, and I've worked with brands. I've always only promoted things that I do actually believe in. I've never put my name to anything that I haven't liked, or but I've possibly done more sponsored content in the past than I do now. And you feel bad, you do feel really bad turning someone down. But you've got to think, I'm putting my name to this, I am representing this and they are representing me. So it's a two-way street. I think now as well, like before when I was fresh out of uni and absolutely broke, and people were like, oh, we'll pay you for this. I'd be like, oh, I really would like that. Whereas now it's a bit easier to turn people down when I've got my job as well as socials. My own socials will always to me be a hobby, and I think you will, unless you're incredible, you'll never make a really good income off of being an influencer. So that was the big thing for me. I keep my day-to-day social media management separate to my actual influencing, which then allows me to do exactly what I want to do with my influencing and not to be this person that has to say yes to pay the bills. Or so that I think is the biggest thing that allows me to say no. But it's just a case of being courteous and saying thank you so much for the opportunity. I can't do it because of A, B, or C. And there have been things I've turned down in the past and they've come back to me and said, oh, what about now? And the situation does change. But yeah, it's definitely a hard one because you don't want to let people down, and sometimes it's just not for you, but you do definitely have to work with brands that you love, that you believe in, because otherwise it will show in the content anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you say, you've worked really hard to build your own brand. So you've got to be so careful who you attach that to. As much as a brand has got to be careful who they attach their brand to, you as someone who's worked really hard to build your personal brand need to do the same. And also whether it aligns with your followers, and there's loads of different things to consider, isn't there? It's not just a quick, oh, I can make some money from that, or I need that thing. Does it really work?
At the end of the day, I just think, are my audience interested? And I've always said I don't want my socials to look like a Facebook ads, next thing for sale, oh, you need to buy this or you need to buy that. I want it to be real, and it's authenticity is the most important thing to me for social media. If I'm not using it on my horses and then suddenly it appears one day because it's a sponsored ad, people know full well what I use. They see me posting every single day. And yes, sometimes I'm introduced to something, I think, oh, this is amazing. But I will try something for a good 6 months before it appears as a sponsored ad. But yeah, it is one of those, and it is very difficult. And as I say, I think accounts that are growing as well, like especially if you have big brands approach you, that it's an amazing opportunity for them to help you grow as well. But you will find your people and once you do find a brand, I think it shows by how long you work with them as well.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that, because it really should be that relationship between the two people. From a brand ambassador point of view, you should be working with each other. The brand should be supporting you, like you've said with Red Gorilla. You support the brand, but they support you as well. You're part of that team. It's not just you on your own and them on their own, and actually you come sometimes cross, but there's no kind of communication there. That's not really how that's not how it works well at all.
No, and I think I've been approached about being a brand ambassador for different brands, but sometimes it's just a case of, oh, we'll send you this product and if you can pop a post on every now and again. And it's like, that's lovely for them to offer, but I want a bit more depth. I want, what are we going to do together? What opportunities can we share? And that's what's really important for me. And also getting on with the brand as the people you're talking to. It's not just to Instagram accounts. You've got to be in communication with these people. Like, these are my plans. Do you fancy doing something like this? And yeah, all of the people I work with are incredible. They have given me so many opportunities, and when I've been handed a really good opportunity, I bring them along with me. And so it really is a two-way street.
Yeah, definitely. I think of your whole journey so far, has there been a kind of standout low for you? We're going to go high afterwards. I just feel like lows, because I think, we look at people online and we look at their lovely shiny accounts and their beautifully edited work, because that's what you're doing. And sometimes it just looks easy.
Yeah.
I know it's not, it's not. But what are the lows on your journey?
I actually think the low for me was last summer. My granddad was terminally ill, and we had no idea how long. He'd come out of hospital, and he really wasn't very well. He was living, he was being cared by my mum, so I'd moved into my mum's where the horses are. So every time I'd go to see Grandad, I was, like feeling atrocious, and then I'd try and go outside and film something with the horses, and I just couldn't do it. So I ended up taking quite a big break. I think I was off for like a little month and a bit. I was uploading things to Instagram and TikTok because that's easy. That doesn't, I can just pop a little story on. And I was quite open with my followers through that, going through that process of, I basically, initially I said, there's something happening with my family. I don't want to go into detail, but just so you're aware, I'm not going to be the happy-go-lucky, smiley, person. Because again, I think, you don't want to share everything online, and that was something very personal to me that I wasn't ready to discuss. But B, you do have to kind of let people know if something's happening, and I don't think there's any point trying to sort of grin and bear it and pretend that everything was okay when it really wasn't. So that was the hardest thing, and I think every sort of YouTuber influencer will agree, we put the biggest pressure on ourselves. And I told all of my brands what was happening. I told work what was happening. They were like, take the time you need. Don't put any pressure. You don't have to put things out there. But you do. You sit there at night and think, oh, I've not done a post this week, or I've not done that. And I think that was the hardest point, because I was dealing with everything, with losing my granddad, and then I was dealing with feeling bad that I hadn't kept up my end of the bargain almost with social media. But I had so much support. And then I did choose, after Grandad passed, to actually a few weeks later to share with everyone what had happened, because, my socials are very personal. But that was definitely a big low for me, just because I was struggling so much. And I wanted to share that with everyone, but I didn't at the same time. So I did have to take a break, and I think that's really important, to allow yourself that time as well. And it again, it shows you're human, but that was definitely mentally and physically a low for me. And because I tried to keep going for the first month, I just kind of burnt myself out anyway. So I was heading I was heading for a break no matter what. But yeah, that was definitely the hardest time.
The pressure is a big thing though, isn't it? As you say, people who have built those followings, who have worked really hard, that you always want to show up for your audience, because you've nurtured these people. I know whenever we spent time together at the National Equine Show, Bolesworth, other places, people don't just come and say, can I have my photograph with you? They ask you specific questions about your horses, and I feel like some of them know more about your horses than you do. I'm going to put that out there. They are so invested in you and your horses and your story. It's a big responsibility, isn't it?
It is. It is. I remember once someone came up to me and was like, I know your car registration. And I was like, this is okay.
That's weird. That's gone weird.
Yeah, this has gone too far. And her dad was like, yeah, she's told you all, like, it's when I had the Audi. And he's like, yeah, told me all about your white Audi. And I'm like, that was in a clip in the back of a video for like 30 seconds once. And that, yeah. So at that point I was like, this is a little bit creepy. I'm glad it's a child that has said this to me. But yeah, people do get very, very invested, and I understand it, because I'm the same with other people on social media. So you do feel the pressure. But again, I think I will always put the most pressure on myself. I'm that sort of person. It's just a case of anything. And the problem is with being an ambassador and being an influencer and everything like that, you can't turn off at night. You go, if you're a 9 to 5 job, you come home from work, and in some cases, you close the door, you're at home. I have constantly got my phone in my hand. I am constantly working. There's constant notifications. And I have got to the point now on an evening where I just put my phone on do not disturb, and it goes in a drawer, and I just leave it for my own like sanity. And I think that's the hardest point. We don't clock off. I went to Mexico for a 2-week holiday last year, and we don't get to go on holiday very often with having the 8 horses. And my boyfriend literally said to me, he was like, just delete Instagram. for these 2 weeks. Just do it. And I was like, oh, and about a week in, I did re-download it and just check how everything was going. And I'd scheduled posts and everything, but I was like, but I'm not replying to messages and I'm not replying to comments. And it's that personal touch. So yeah, I do feel the pressure, but you have to give yourself boundaries. It's really, really important to be like, I'm not going to be on my phone. I'm not going to reply to every comment immediately.
Yeah, it's definitely a tricky one. Now, obviously, we've done lows, but you've had some amazing highs as well. Can you share a few of those with us? I'm not going to say one because I know you've had quite a few, and I think as well, the highs can be quite different. While something's a high in one way, something else can be a high in the other. So talk us through a few of your highs.
Oh, completely. I mean, I've had a high today. I literally got a message from my mum saying that my new saddle had arrived. And I walked in, I was almost in tears because it is beautiful. So I'm being supported by Albion, and they came out and measured Smokey 6 weeks ago. And I was just like, this is incredible that they've actually sent me a saddle. They want me to be riding in it. So that was incredible, like just this morning. But I think looking back at everything, a few of the highs. So one was obviously hitting 100k on YouTube. The second that plaque came, I was like, I need to do something to celebrate this. So me and my best friend Ellie, who also has a horse, we booked this holiday. So it's like a horsey holiday at a place called Field Farm by the coast. And we're like, we're going to go away for a week and just basically enjoy the horses. And I got my photographer to come and to video it all. And Smokey had never been to the beach. So I was like, I'm going to write 100k in the sand. And we had this drone. I was like, and we're going to gallop through it. And it was hilarious. So I set off galloping down the beach. We got to the 100k and he just put the brakes on. And I almost went sailing through the 100k in the sand.
Oh
Luckily,
no.
because I would never have caught him again on a beach. I was like, right, change of plan, guys. I'm just gonna kind of canter past it instead. But it was hilarious because it even showed like not everything goes to plan at all. And we had the best, it was just the best time, just celebrating something massive that I'd achieved with the people closest to me and the people that had supported me through it. Like bless her, Ellie comes to everything and I make her film things, and it was really, really nice. And I kind of got to give back to her as well for that. So that was a definite high for me. I think the others have been like meeting people at shows. So you don't realize the impact you have on people. I went to one show and this girl came up to me and she'd started horse riding because she'd started watching my videos, and she was showing me, and she was incredible. She'd only been riding like 6 months, and she was jumping some like flipping big courses, and she was like, oh, I'm doing this and I'm doing that, and she was like, I'd have never found the love for horse riding if it wasn't for you. So
Wow.
like actually giving that to someone was incredible. And because I've shared a lot about losing my confidence when I was younger. I had a really bad accident and I lost my confidence, and I shared that story a lot, and I get so many people message me saying, because you had a similar story, you've kind of encouraged me to get back in the saddle. And so that's definitely a massive high for me, the fact that I can actually have that influence and impact on someone, and they've had something, massively positive come out of it.
No, definitely. That's really awesome. Now, my next kind of thought on this was about people that want to work with brands. That's a really big thing, isn't it? A lot of people who start their accounts, they want to grow them, they want to be brand ambassadors or influencers. And I've got a two-part question on this because I think we can approach it from both sides here. The first one is, if you are someone who's an influencer and you think, I really want to work with brands, what advice would you give people?
I'd say firstly, it has to be something that you already use. So if you're first starting out and you message a brand and go, oh, I love the look of this, and then the first thing they do, because I work for brands as well, is you scroll down their Instagram and go, well, I can't see anything of where like you've worn it, like even you don't even necessarily have to tag, but like, you know, just some evidence that you actually like the brand and support the brand. So I'd say find brands that you genuinely use and genuinely like and actually own a bit of their product. You know, if it's something like really expensive, it doesn't have to be like the top of the range, or just if you've got some boots from this brand, for example, and you know, like little things mean a lot. And I'd say build the relationship on socials, you know, like the post, comment on the post, show them that you're actively interested and invested in what they're doing and putting out there. That was a big one. And then also being professional about it. So I've literally like heard and seen of people who've been, you know, maybe they've got a little bit of a following and they sent a message saying, oh, if you send me some stuff, I'll do you a post, or like
Wanna
stuff like
sponsor me is my favorite, a one-liner, and it says, you know, you get your notification and it said this person started following a brand that morning, and then you get a message going, wanna sponsor me, and you think, in no way on this earth do I want that to be a thing.
yeah, and it happens though. It genuinely happens, and it might sound like crazy to us who like see this every day, but I think people maybe think that's how it works, but it doesn't.
It is
It's
not.
a
It's not.
process of building a relationship, and then, you know, put a proposal together. Say, this is what I do. This is, you know, screenshot your reach and show them what you can do for the brand. Or just say, I have these incredible followers. This is the support I've got. And it's not all about numbers. You don't need thousands and thousands of people. You just need to be able to demonstrate that you've got people genuinely invested in you and what you say, and that your opinion matters. And I think even just like offering to try something out. So maybe you'll be like, would you like to send me something? I'd love to just share my opinion, review it, rather than being like, oh, it's so much for this, or like, you know,
Yeah.
send me that and I'll do a post and you can pay me this. Like, there's no authenticity, there's no depth to that. They're not gaining anything from having a photo of you in it. So yeah, I think that's the best way to go about it, and just be professional.
Yeah, I think people really underestimate that even if you're getting a product worth 50 quid, let's say, obviously, you know, the way that numbers work, that costs the brand much less, but that is still £50 worth of product that brand can't sell or it can't give to somebody else. They're still giving you a thing and investing in you.
Yeah.
You need to be professional. You're essentially being paid for what you're doing. And that is just, and it's not that you have to, you know, have letterheaded paper that comes through the post. God, old school. But it is just politeness. If you say you've loved the brand and you follow them forever, and actually they can see you followed them that morning, that's just a lie. It is just that professionalism. That's something that I know when I've got my brand hat and we're looking at people, we look at loads of different things, but how they conduct themselves is really important. How they do interact with the brand. I like to see people who are interested in a brand liking, commenting, like good comments, not just love this, heart, you know, actually relevant comments, because they start to flag on my radar then of, well, that's an interesting person. And when that keeps happening, you remember their name. And then if that does build up to them approaching you, it's all these bits of the jigsaw that go together. You think, no, actually, that person has been really engaged for the last number of weeks or months, not day.
Yeah, definitely. It's a long-term process. And like tagging, you know, the best way to show a brand that you actively use something is to tag them. But don't just tag them. Maybe say in the caption, oh, wearing this today because I love it and this works really well, or my horse goes really nicely in it. You know, add a bit of depth to it, because it's not just all pretty photos. I think that's coming from the whole YouTube side, that's really helped me, because I can't, as I say, photos aren't necessarily my thing. I actually do a bit of modeling and photo shoots now, ironically. But you know, I'm a big chatty person, if you can't tell. And I like to discuss things and talk about the products. You know, it's so many people just want to put a photo on with maybe a 10-word caption and a hashtag, and no one's gaining anything from that.
I'd agree with that. Now, obviously, brands who are trying to find these influencers as well, they do the work, they find them. From your point of view as an influencer brand ambassador, what things do you want from a brand to help you do a really good job for them? Because, again, I hear both sides. I hear influencers and content creators who are really, really peed off with brands for doing a bad job. and brands who are really, really peed off with content creators for doing a bad job. Biggest issue I see is a lack of communication. Sometimes you get a dud on either way. You can have influencers and content creators who really promise the world and give you nothing, go dead quiet, silence, horrible content. You completely get that. And you do get some brands who just don't get it and who aren't nice to work with. But those aside, a lot of the time I just see this communication issue. No one's talking. So what's the best advice you could give for a brand who wants to have a really positive relationship with a content creator or brand ambassador?
I think, again, it works in the same way. If you're working with a brand, you'd like to see them supporting you, liking and commenting, exactly the same. But have a contract would be my biggest. So even if you're only doing a very small amount of work for them, it doesn't have to be a literal signed contract, like legally binding, but a outline of, yeah, so we'll send you this in exchange for, so
Yeah.
blah, 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 like one post, one reel, one whatever. So you know exactly what it is expected of you. Some brands like to approve things before you send them. If that is what your brand wants to do, make sure that that is very clear. Because as like influencers, we are very busy. So sometimes, and I've done it before where a brand said to me, oh, we'd love you to do a reel. I'm like, yeah, not a problem. 4 days later, the reel goes up and like, oh, that's great. We would have liked to have like done this or done that. And it's like, oh, sorry, but you just asked for a reel. So give context of exactly what you like. Obviously, when you're approaching an influencer, you're approaching them because you like their style and you want them to have the creative input that they want to have. But if you want specific points pointing out, or a style that maybe they've done before and you'd like them to recreate that, say that. Give us pointers. Or one thing that I always ask for, especially if it's a new product, is I'll say, right, tell me everything that's good about this from the brand's perspective, and I'll put it in my own words. But just having a list of these are the points to make about something is really, really helpful, because sometimes you're looking at it and you're thinking, well, I know it's amazing, but I'm not exactly sure what to say.
But the fabrics it's made from, all the
Yeah,
research and those kind of
all the
things.
little things that you can just bulk out a content with. Because I can say, oh, these boots are incredible. My horse goes in, so well in them. They're really well protected. Or I can go into the actual details of it that add a little bit more depth. And if you're then handing that content over to a brand to say, oh, you use it, then it works on both platforms. So definitely have a contract, or at least a written or verbal thing where you're like, this is what we expect in exchange. And also tell people what they're like being sent. Or one big thing for me is when brands like will send you something, and like, because I'm on a few like PR lists, or maybe an ambassador, and like new spring seasons coming out, and I'll just get this box out of nowhere, and it'll be like, oh, lovely, thank you so much, and you open it up and you don't know what's inside. Or maybe there's something that you would really, really have used every single day, but they haven't sent you that. They've sent you something that they think you'd like. So I think giving influencers and ambassadors sort of a choice in what they're sent is a big thing, because you'll get so much more out of them. Sending me something in bright yellow that is not my colour at all, I won't be wearing that a lot. Send me it in navy, which I absolutely, pretty much everything I have is navy. You will see it, every week. So that's a big communication thing for me.
Out of interest, because you said something there, and it's something that I fundamentally disagree with. Not what you've said, but there are some brands who will literally script a caption for an influencer to post, and to me, I just wonder why on earth they're using that influencer. Because if you're going to script something, pay for a Facebook ad. The whole point of working with an influencer or content creator is you want to tap into their audience, their manner, their skills, and how they can get your message across through their filter to their audience. And I have seen some brands literally send influencers, we want you to post this, and I've looked and gone, I wouldn't do that. And that's not me being contrary. I just don't think it's correct. I don't think it does the best for the brand, and it certainly doesn't do particularly well for the influencer, in my opinion. What do you think?
It's not natural. And this is where I struggle. So I have done like videos before where they've asked me to say a specific thing, and it will take me 20 attempts because I'm no actor. I can't like, look at a script and go, oh yeah, there we go, I can do this. That's not what I'm here for. So yeah, I completely agree. I don't think it's natural. I don't think it works for like the ambassador's audience, the influencer audience, or the brand's audience. You can tell when someone's reading something. And I think the problem is when people do that, I see this most often when it's possibly not an equestrian brand, or maybe it's a big corporate company trying to get into something that don't really trust the people they're working with to deliver what they want. And I think if that's the case, don't work with them. I personally won't do any sort of, this is everything you have to say. Give me pointers, absolutely. And you'll find I probably go into even more detail because I'm, expanding on those points. But a few, 3-4 bullet points will suffice.
Yeah, not
because
you have to read this script whilst looking at the camera, whilst holding the horse on your left, and this, and this. It's just not. And then you get a load of exactly the same content out if you have a campaign, which again, to me, I just think if I've seen it once, I don't need to see it again. But actually, everyone else's individual take on it, that's interesting.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we've all got different horses as well. And this is like, that's a good point, because everyone reacts differently. And also like if like a brand might ask you to do a certain thing with your horse, and it's like mine won't do that, or everyone's different. Like, people follow me because I've got a crazy little Connie. He's literally your typical naughty pony. And yes, I've got a few others that hopefully will do a bit of competing and a bit of higher level stuff, but Smokes is Smokes and he's himself. And a lot of people follow me because they love him and his personality. So if you want him to stand there and be really quiet in the back of a video, A, he probably won't do that, or it'll take me hours to get him to do that. But B, actually letting him be himself as well as me be myself will come across so much better.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more with you there. I think it's really important. Brands work with influencers because of what they've created. So use that in the nicest possible way to everyone's advantage, to be honest. I find it absolutely bizarre the other way around, to be perfectly honest. What do you think is ahead for us in the next year or so on social media? We've had loads of changes. Obviously, Reels I feel like Reels are recent, but they're not. They're pandemic, aren't they? They were a pandemic creation. But loads of things are changing. Where do you think is going to be the focus? What things do you think we're going to see more of?
I think we're going to see a lot more of, so everything's kind of changed. There's no longer a trending. So, you've got all your trending audios and stuff, which is still kind of a thing on Instagram. But I think, and this is where the influencers are going to come in, a lot, especially with brands, are going to struggle just putting videos out there with trending audios and pretty videos, that everyone's pushing for substance, but genuine substance, genuine opinions. So like if I post now, my best videos are me talking on Instagram and TikTok, or I'll do like a day in my life showing everything I do in that day. But it's actually those conversations or storytelling, and actually someone's connecting with you rather than, oh, isn't this pretty? Again, it's this lack of substance, and everyone's sort of going in that direction. TikTok have changed to the longer formats that have enabled people to actually almost post like they would on YouTube. YouTube, again, that will always be a thing, but they're pushing for people to do even longer on YouTube Shorts. So we're still seeing that sort of portrait format. And then TikTok now. I could have posted on, say, a brand's account about 5 months ago, a really well shot by my videographer video to a trending audio and got 20,000 views. Now I can upload the exact same thing with a still current trending audio and get 4,000-5,000. And it's the way the algorithm has changed. It's, I can't remember his name, but Instagram turned around and said, we want people who are investing in sharing information and being informative. You've got to kind of entertain now. You can't just sit on your laurels and be like, oh, that looks good. And I think that's almost a movement as well from the really high quality we've seen. So actually,
Is
I
this a
don't,
thing actually that
yeah,
I see that more kind of people almost with their phone or their the camera that they're using, sort of walking along chatting, gets much more engagement when these kind of high level cinematic masterpieces that are beautiful to watch, but they don't get the traction.
no. No, and that's something I've really noticed. In fact, me and one of my friends who's an influencer, we were chatting about this last night because we've got like a big event coming up. And I was like, I'm going with my little DSLR. Like, and I will have a videographer at the other side of it, but mine doesn't shoot in 4K at the minute. Like, so yeah, there is a movement away from the everything has to be pristine. It's a lot more natural, and I think that's why TikTok does so well, because TikTok is, it's the fastest growing platform, it's the biggest platform at the moment because it's so accessible. You can pick up your phone, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to have an entire crew behind you to
No.
make it a TikTok. And actually, if you have an entire crew behind you, that's probably not going to perform very well. It's entertaining people without just relying on something like the high quality. And I think when Reels came about initially, you suddenly saw the popularity of all the videographers and everything really, spike. And every sort of brand seemed to have their own videographer at an event that was filming bits behind the scenes. And now you see all the little marketing people running about like headless chickens, getting Reels and stuff on their phones. And actually, that will probably do better than everything else. I think there is a big movement where people just want to, we've been entertained by all the nice videos, we've seen that it's been done, what else can we sort of gain from it? So yeah, I think now that Instagram have announced that they're an entertainment platform after they went from from photo to video, and now we're entertainment, and now that TikTok have got the longer format, we'll be seeing a lot more in-depth videos that are actually people talking. And this is when ambassadors and influencers will really come into their own, because you'll want someone actually showing you their day-to-day life of using a product, talking about it, giving you really good information.
Yeah. And it makes it much more accessible, doesn't it? You need your phone. Obviously you can do more than that, and I'm not saying people shouldn't, but you can get started and you can create really good content with your phone, because although obviously the quality of it, making sure you've cleaned your lens, you're not in a middle of a hurricane, or just a gentle breeze on my phone, those things are super important, but the authenticity and that connection through the camera is the thing that is getting that engagement.
Oh, completely. I don't think you need, all the whistles and bells for something to work. You used to do, and
Mm.
but we are moving away from that. I, even if you just look at your normal phone that's sat next to you, that's still £1,000 worth of equipment at least, really, that sat there with cameras on them that, are incredibly, my phone films in 4K, my DSLR doesn't. Yeah, my DSLR has higher megapixels and it looks better when it's on a smaller screen, but I don't need to go to the hassle of carrying that around all of the time. You can actually achieve so much with a phone. I actually think the biggest thing that I've seen on socials, and this is very like, this has been about since I was starting, is actually audio quality.
Yeah.
So you'll notice a lot of people will watch a video that maybe isn't the best quality, but the second the audio isn't good quality, they're off it. We're fine with visual, not being incredible, but the second when we're listening to it, we're struggling, or maybe it's windy. People will just completely block off from it straight away. So actually, I'd say if you're looking to set out, whether you're a brand, whether you're an influencer, and you want to invest in the equipment, don't invest in the camera, invest in a good microphone. That would be my number one. And it's like, I've got the Rode Go mic. They're amazing. They just like clip on and they're wireless. So I can literally plug the other end into my phone. So sometimes I'll film stuff on my phone, but I'll still have an external microphone. And especially for like equestrian, you know, sometimes you're miles away from a camera. But yeah, that would be the biggest sort of thing for me. Make sure you've got your audio down before anything else.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant advice. Is there anything else you would like to share with us today before I ask you to remind us of all the places we can find you online?
I don't know. I honestly, Ria, I could talk to you for days on end. So that's not a good question. But no, I just want to say thank you for having me, really, because honestly, I mean, any excuse to chat to Ria, I am there for, and she will message me and be like, "You want to come on this stage?" I'm like, absolutely, sign me up.
You are very good for that. Things that come up, I think, George would be perfect for that. Quick message. Yeah, I'm up for that. I think I sent you 2 in the week on the run up to the National Equine Show, because obviously you came on my panel, which was awesome. And then you did a day on the beta panel where you were with Di and Claire talking about safety and head injury. And I was chatting to Claire and I went, well, we need George. And she's like, oh my God, of course we need George. I was like, leave it with me, leave it with me. And there you were. So it's really good to have people that you can call on who understand the game as well, because you know you are, again, we're saying you're connected to a brand. If I for example am saying, oh, I'd really love you to do this, I need to have confidence that you're going to do a great job for you and for them, and you always do. So I'm very, very grateful for that as well.
Yeah.
Remind us of all the places we can find you online, just in case someone is following you on one platform and not the others.
Of course. So I am pretty much on everything. I do have a Facebook, but it's basically Instagram reposted to Facebook because I don't really like Facebook. But if you're looking for me, it's Lilpetchannel, which is Lilpet channel, just to confuse everyone. But yeah, I'm on Instagram as Lilpetchannel. I'm on Facebook as Lilpetchannel. I'm on YouTube as Lilpetchannel. And then just to throw a bit of a curveball, I'm on TikTok as Lilpetchannel _official because someone stole my name.
The devils.
I know. I was a bit late to the TikTok show. They actually emailed me when it was first like setting out, like, oh, would you like to join TikTok? And I was like, I'm spinning a few plates right now. I'll see how it goes and maybe I'll join. And then like 4 months later, I went to join and someone was already at Lilpetchannel. I was like, oh, this is rude.
Not cool. Not on. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been brilliant to chat to you as always, and lots of really interesting information that I think will help people wanting to improve, you know, their social, be influencers, be brand ambassadors, and also for brands to help those associations work. So I think you're right, there's such a lot in this relationship that can really help brands and help influencers, and you know, all the different things if we work together and find better ways of working together with a greater understanding too.
Yeah, completely. Well, thank you so much for having me.